in really negative territory for the balance of the day. We actually recovered a little bit, but when we got to the final 3 hours of the day, the S&P actually started really getting shifted to the downside, but 300 plus points for the Dow on that drop, 220 points for the NASDAQ on that drop to finish both those two indices off significantly. We're talking about 2% losses, the worst in about 3 months, and we finished the day down over 600 points on the Dow, over 350 points on the NASDAQ, and that was just an absolute just selling frenzy across the board, except for a lot of these names that everybody's been focusing on so much. And so let's jump into that. So what were some of the gains yesterday? Nokia was up 40%. GameStop was up 130%. AMC 300% to the upside. BlackBerry is up a modest 31%. Bed Bath & Beyond up about 43%. So you could see what was really going on, some of the shifts and the shift away from what's going on in the broader market in terms of the earnings season and a much more refined look, or defined look, I should say, at these stocks with the highest short interest and what we've been seeing with a lot of volume and these squeezes that just continue to go on. As a matter of fact, let me go through a little bit of the volumes, and I'm going to cap it off with what the true volume was yesterday. So Nokia yesterday, 3.3 million contracts. Yes, you heard me right, 3.3 million contracts. Apple, 1.8 million going into earnings. GameStop, 1.5 million. AMC, 1.4 million. Palantir, 1.2 million. BlackBerry, 1 million. So those are all part of the million contract club of trading yesterday. Oh, and by the way, 60.6 million contracts trading yesterday. You want to talk about a frenzy. A lot of that's going to get pulled back, though. You know why? Because the restrictions that, as we get into today's trade, the restrictions that were put on closing and all the rest of this, and not able to trade in certain new products of any of the old stocks, but you can't add new things to that. All of that, the restrictions, the prohibited opening of trades, all of that will probably slow down some of these volumes, I would think, to some degree. But on the other hand, we are also looking at some of those same names that I just mentioned moving to the downside. Not GameStop. GameStop, last I looked, was up about 20%, but BlackBerry down 27%, Nokia down about 22%, Bed Bath & Beyond 11%, Sorrento down 16%, AMC was down 34%. So you could see what's going on here now, and a lot of people very, very angry about what's going on and what some of the decisions have been made in terms of what people are able to trade. And now all of a sudden, I think you are finding even more of a disconnect on Wall Street between Main Street and what everybody's calling the suits of Wall Street. And you can see the frustration. You can hear it. Obviously, you can read about it across the board in social media, but that's something we are definitely seeing. We are also seeing a monstrous rebound today. As a matter of fact, when you look at what's going on in the markets, and you see the S&P up about 50 points, you can understand why we are seeing volatility come in at the rate that we are. Now, we're still very close to 30. But remember this, a 32 VIX actually correlates into a 2% move every single day. So how long do we expect to see the volatility holding up and above, call it 32, like we did just yesterday, and then suddenly we plunge right back down and we're just underneath 30? Because of the fact that it really is the indicator. It does give you a sense of how much movement you're going to be expecting in the markets, how much movement have we had, and how long can that be sustained. So that's something, and that's why we talk about the VIX all the time and that focus that we put on there. So early on, it was pretty interesting because the NASDAQ actually was fairly negative in the pre-markets. I think I saw it down as much as 90 points. What was really dragging it? Well, some of those big names, and that can oftentimes be a huge drag. But we've certainly turned the corner because the NASDAQ's now up 140 points as I just took a quick look. But yeah, it's interesting. You got Tesla, you got Amazon or Apple, you've got Zoom. You've got eBay, those big names, some good-sized market caps on some of those names, obviously with Apple, Tesla, and so forth. And it just makes you wonder, was the market going to make that turn? It certainly did. And it was Facebook and Marriott and Micron and the semiconductors that really made a quick turn very rapidly. They were up about close to 1.5% early on, along with biotech. Take a look at what's really leading right now, healthcare. So names like Humana, United Health, those types of names, really having some really strong performance, up 3% on a couple of those names, a little bit more on some of those other names as well. So a couple of unusuals, and we're going to get the heck out of here and you can enjoy your day. Barclays. So we're going a little bit more conservative today because that's what really stuck out so far in terms of the unusual options activity that we are seeing. So in Barclays, they're going all the way out into June. Stock was trading about 735. They were going for the June 8 calls. About 11,500 of those were purchased between 60 cents and 70 cents. So fairly inexpensive. You are getting a lot of time for any kind of a recovery, of more of a recovery, I should say, because you take a look back just a couple of months ago and you can see exactly where Barclays was, where it is now, and what potentially it could go to over what these people are expecting over the next few months. So that one stood out. By the way, 9,500 of that 11,500 was in one single print. Those are the big boys trading, so keep an eye on that as well. Now, Glu Mobile. It's a name we talk about once in a while. We talk about gaming all the time. This name, they're also going out to June. Stock was trading about 950. They were going 8,800 of the June 15 calls were going between 40 and 70 cents. I always like to reference where the stock was and where the options are so you have a better understanding, because sometimes the movement is so fast from the time that something was bought that you just have to say, all right, well, I missed this one, I got to go to the next. So that's why I try to define where it was at the time and what the strike price was as well. So trying to keep up with all of that as best we can, because the markets certainly are on fire. We talked about yesterday 60 plus million contracts, really a monstrous day. I do not recall ever in my career, been doing this since 92, I do not recall seeing that kind of volume ever. So it's amazing. I think we will see a significant reining back of volume, especially particularly based upon what we were hearing from all the various platforms today and some of what we were talking about earlier, these restrictions that are put on. Folks, have a great day of trading. You will not see me today on the halftime or on the Fast Money Report. I will be doing some radio and some TV talking about a lot of the craziness that's going on in the markets locally here. I'll be doing it here in Minnesota. And yesterday I had an opportunity to do some stuff with Fox. If you get a chance, you can see what I was talking about there and just some of the comparisons of what we are seeing in those markets. But until then, I will see you tomorrow here on The Take at 9:30 Central Time, 10:30 Eastern Time. And then I'll see you on the Halftime Report tomorrow afternoon. Folks,